This is part 2 of our two-part 2026 Power Ranking series ahead of the Australian Grand Prix, based on our trackside observations and findings from Bahrain testing. If you have not yet watched part 1, you can find the link in the description below. If you find this analysis useful, consider supporting the channel by liking the video and subscribing for further reports as the season unfolds. Alpine, French-German alliance. We begin part 2 with Alpine, arguably the greatest unknown in the midfield, yet also the team that appears to have made the most visible step forward compared to 2025. That progress is not solely attributable to the switch to a Mercedes power unit, though the new supply arrangement has clearly stabilized a previously fragile foundation. The central difficulty in evaluating Alpine's true position lies in the absence of clean, directly comparable race simulations. Long runs are the clearest currency of winter testing, and in this area, Alpine left too many variables unresolved. Without sustained, like-for-like stints against direct rivals, the data lacks precision. On short runs, however, the car appeared competitive. During qualifying style windows, it demonstrated the ability to produce strong lap times and looked composed under low fuel conditions. Yet tire selection complicates that interpretation. Bahrain's abrasive surface and pronounced degradation distort the value of softer compounds. A fast lap on very soft rubber at Sakhir does not automatically translate into sustained race performance. What is undeniable is the broader organizational shift. Alpine moved from the back of the field in 2025 to a team that now appears structurally capable of challenging at the front of the midfield in 2026. The driver pairing has, so far, worked harmoniously. Leadership appears more settled under Steve Nielsen, with Flavio Briatore operating as overarching figurehead. Stability, in Formula One terms, is performance currency. There are, however, potential distractions on the horizon, off-track discussions, the ongoing Christian Horner narrative as potential new team owner and team principal. For now, the competitive assessment remains open. Alpine may arrive in Australia operating at the level of 5th place, potentially leading the midfield battle. Equally, it is possible that Bahrain's characteristics flattered their package. We will soon find out. Haas require only brief attention here, as we have already covered their test program in detail. What must be said clearly, however, is that Haas were the most convincing midfield team in Bahrain. Their case rests on simple facts: strong mileage, a disciplined program, and consistent long-run performance. The Ferrari power unit once again proved reliable and competitive, reinforcing a partnership that remains central to their strength. Operationally, the team looked sharp. The car behaved predictably. Adjustments delivered expected results, and each session built on the previous one. Both drivers spoke positively about the package, and leadership reflected similar confidence. Haas therefore arrive in Australia as the most complete midfield contender from these tests. The only open question is whether this form was Bahrain-specific, or the beginning of a sustained upward trend for the smallest team on the grid. Red Bull, Max Factor. We now turn to the leading group, the 4 teams that, on current evidence, remain clearly separated from the midfield. The margin behind them appears significant. The margin between them, however, is razor-thin. At this level, circuit characteristics alone may determine who stands on the top step of the podium on any given weekend. And beyond machinery, individual execution matters. Foresight, composure, and the reduction of error to almost zero. Few drivers embody that principle more consistently. We begin with Red Bull. The new power unit project entered testing under considerable scrutiny. Given the scale of the transition, many expected turbulence. Instead, what emerged was relative stability. The absence of major reliability drama must be considered a quiet success in itself. In race simulations, Red Bull appeared competitive. The long-run pace was solid and consistent, positioning them firmly within the leading quartet. Yet, they did not appear dominant. On single-lap performance, they did not project the authority of a clear favorite. The key observation from Bahrain is that Red Bull did not break certain headline thresholds in the way some rivals did. There was no defining moment, neither a standout qualifying simulation nor the kind of start performance that drew attention elsewhere in the field. The conclusion is therefore measured. Red Bull remain unquestionably within the top 4, but they possess one asset no other team can replicate: Max Verstappen. In a tightly balanced championship, that factor alone may shift the equation more than any testing data can predict. McLaren, inner harmony. If Red Bull were measured in Bahrain, McLaren were quietly dangerous. They were present throughout the test, consistently quick, yet notably restrained in how that pace was presented. There was no overt attempt to control the narrative, no aggressive pursuit of headline times. Instead, the performance revealed itself in subtler, more controlled ways. The long-run picture was particularly strong. Across race simulations, McLaren appeared comfortable operating within the leading group, matching the rhythm of their direct rivals. On single laps, there were also competitive flashes, sufficient to confirm that the car possesses genuine low-fuel speed when required. An additional layer of intrigue surrounds their technical configuration. Paddock discussion suggests that McLaren may not have been running the very latest Mercedes power unit specification during testing. If accurate, that would imply that incremental performance remains to be unlocked once the season begins. The takeaway is straightforward. McLaren leave Bahrain looking firmly embedded in the front group and potentially capable of arriving in Australia slightly stronger than the testing narrative alone might indicate. Beyond pure lap time, there is also the impression of balance. McLaren appear, at this stage, to be the most harmoniously integrated operation among the top teams. The technical departments seem aligned, the driver pairing is functioning cohesively, and leadership operates with the confidence of a reigning benchmark. That internal stability, combined with competitive pace, makes them a serious reference point heading into the opening round. Mercedes, sandbagging kings. For many inside the paddock, Mercedes is the team to beat this year, a reference to the dominant era that began in 2014. And they are right to say so. Mercedes leave Bahrain with enormous track mileage and a clear consensus that they have not shown everything yet, on purpose. But the constant storytelling and sandbagging that drifted into almost comical or theatrical performances, particularly from Russell and in certain press conferences with Toto Wolff, felt distracting and, at times, unnecessary. Yes, they appeared organized throughout the program. Sessions were executed efficiently. Runs were completed methodically. In several instances, they concluded their daily objectives earlier than rivals and did not pursue dramatic late-session headline laps. That restraint inevitably fuels suspicion. In Formula One, when a leading team chooses not to show everything, observers assume there is more to reveal. The stories about compression ratios, fuel, and other wild rumors may not originate within Mercedes, but the handling of them appeared less worthy of a team so confident in its own strength. The takeaway is simple. Mercedes may have hidden more than anyone, and that possibility alone is why so many still regard them as the benchmark heading into Australia. Their PR approach, however, could benefit from the same level of precision and discipline that defined the team during their dominant years with Lewis Hamilton. Ferrari, the hope awakens. The risky strategic direction taken in 2025 now appears, at least on early evidence, to have paid off heading into 2026. Ferrari arrive at the top of this provisional ranking not through narrative, but through visible performance. They were the most convincing speed package in Bahrain. Quick laps, strong race simulations, and perhaps most strikingly, exceptional starts. In multiple practice launch sequences, the Ferrari gained ground decisively in the early acceleration phase. In a tightly matched front group, that is not a marginal detail. It is a genuine weapon, particularly if they qualify within the first two rows. The race pace also withstood scrutiny. Across longer runs, Ferrari operated comfortably within the leading bracket. There was no sense of overreach or forced headline chasing. The speed appeared embedded in the concept rather than extracted through extremes. Then there were the attention-grabbing innovations, bold, almost playful in their execution, and notably free of hesitation. Combined with those explosive starts, they created moments that briefly silenced the media center and shifted the tone of the discussion. Yet, caution remains essential. Bahrain's stop-and-go layout may flatter certain characteristics of the Ferrari package, and the sandbag question inevitably lingers, particularly with Mercedes projecting quiet confidence in the background. There is also the emotional dimension. Ferrari have convinced Italy before. Ferrari supporters, shaped by cycles of promise and disappointment, have learned to manage expectation. Optimism exists, but it is measured. The conclusion is clear. Ferrari looked best in Bahrain. Whether that advantage survives when the lights go out in Australia will define the opening chapter of the 2026 season. There you have it. These observations are in no way a definitive prediction of how the teams will perform in Australia. The circuit in Melbourne is unique, Updates will arrive, improvements will be made, and the sandbagging question still lingers. What does appear clear is the overall structure. There are two teams at the bottom facing immediate challenges. There is a defined top four, separated from the rest, and in between lies a midfield that is narrow, volatile, and, at times, chaotic. Within that space, almost anything can happen. And that is precisely what makes Australia so compelling. When the engines roar again, a new chapter begins, with unanswered questions, unexpected setbacks, mechanical fragility, and the ever-present variable of human error. We will return with one final report before the lights go out, a full Grand Prix preview, including a look back at Australia 2025 and what it may tell us about the race ahead. Like and subscribe, and thanks for watching.